If you enter the social media world, no matter what platform, you see a lot of noise out there. Everybody seems to be an expert at everything nowadays because you just plug it into ChatGPT, got your answer, but that's really not how it works.
This is Daniela Schrittenlocher, founder, strategist, digital architect. She didn't take the traditional path. She built her brand quietly, layer by layer, click by click, until it became one of Europe's most respected.
My only intent was, let's create a platform that is going to help my current clients answer their questions. And that really snowballed into what it is now. Once you know who you are, you can represent yourself the right way. And that's the only way to be authentic.
What started as a personal vision is now a blueprint used by thousands of entrepreneurs and creators across the world. Her work isn't loud, but its impact is undeniable. Because Daniela doesn't just talk about brand power, she builds it.
When somebody's like, I want to be a creator, where do I start? I want to make money off my content.
Don't focus on making money. Focus on answering questions, on helping people. Focus on that over focusing on, I want to make X amount of money, because you will not get there.
Daniela, I'm excited to do this. One of my favorite ideas that you've had in regards to social media and to content is don't listen to everybody and every hack and every trick out there. And I feel like this is really a no-nonsense philosophy to everything you do in your life. Can you explain why that idea is so important?
Well, if you enter the social media world, no matter what platform, you see a lot of noise out there from left and right, all the angles possible. Everybody seems to be an expert at everything nowadays because you just plug it into ChatGPT and here you go, got your answer. But that's really not how it works. Not in the social media world, not in life, not in business. Really just listen to your gut feeling sometimes, see what works for you and go from there.
I love that you mentioned ChatGPT because I feel like people, especially in social media, I'm seeing so much ChatGPT generated garbage, and people are outsourcing their thinking and their writing and basically their whole lives, and it's not good. And I don't know why people thought this would ever be good, but I mean, you've built a massive audience. You help other companies understand content and social and sort of emerging strategy. Why is it like human nature to just default to the easiest possible option? Is that what we do as humans? Like, what you succeeded by almost being contrarian to that, by doing what's uniquely you and by putting out content that is actually what you believe in. Why do people default to this easy content, even when we know it's not going to get the likes, the views, the shares? Because I see it everywhere. So obviously people are addicted to it, but I don't think it's working.
No, it's definitely not. And I mean, well, if I say it's definitely not, it is working for some people because so many are just out there copying and not being themselves. But the problem is it only works for so long, right? With everything you do, if you try to be someone else, you can only do this for so long. It's not going to be sustainable. Not to you, you're not evolving. You're only always chasing the next best hack to get somewhere where someone else already is. That will never get you ahead.
You had the luxury of not having ChatGPT when you started this journey. So it forced you. So talk to me about how you made this transition, why you even chose to move into content and social, like where you came from as well, and how that informed a little bit of who you are now.
Well, you know what? I think it goes back to expertise, real working expertise, and just going off of that and basing everything off of that. That's really where I was coming from. And I did not look at creating an Instagram channel or a social media presence from a standpoint of, oh my gosh, I want to grow to X amount of followers. My only intent was, let's create a platform that is going to help my current clients answer their questions, because they kept asking the same questions over and over again. And I was like, okay, let me simplify my process, build a platform that anyone can access, and just take it from there. And that really snowballed into what it is now.
Now when did you first transition out of corporate and into sort of doing your own thing, and explain. So the first version of doing your own thing was building out an agency. It wasn't even social. Social was kind of like a means to an end. Is that correct?
Correct. Social was just a tool that I utilized.
What was the point where you're like, I want to do something different. I want to break away. This is not fulfilling anymore. Because even that, I'm sure you include this in your story and your content because it's very meaningful. But talk to me about that.
Yeah. So honestly, going back to the first lockdown of COVID, that's really where it all began. I always loved my corporate life. I didn't have to experience any layoffs or anything like that. Never thought I would be a business owner or venturing out of the corporate world. I was just following the ladder, just going up, and it just all worked out great and fine. Secure income, all the things that come along, great benefits. Um, but it was such a tilting point for me where first lockdown, I have a couple of friends that were small business owners or are small business owners, and really with their brick and mortar, first lockdown, not really having a social presence, not having an online presence at all or a website. And they turned to me, asked me, okay, can you help me? Because I really don't know what to do at this point. And I started helping, and it just felt so much more rewarding than just working your, responsibilities that you have in corporate. Just having that one-on-one connection and seeing someone succeed, not a ginormous business that I was working with in corporate, and talking to all the CEOs and CFOs and CIOs of the world, rather looking at my friends' eyes and they're being just so excited that this is working out. That was everything I needed.
What is the mindset shift? What is the mental model or the reframe that you had to make? Because you've done it multiple times in your life now. That's very interesting because I had to as well.
Well, I think it goes back to reflecting on your own personality and getting to know yourself and really thinking of, okay, what is my value? What can I give to other people? And for me personally, I just found out it's truly helping others succeed.
Was there a way that you transitioned out of corporate and into doing your own thing? A strategy, because that, when you have to provide for somebody, it's not like you can just like fail. Like there is no failure option. Like you have kids, you have family, you have mortgage, you have rent, whatever. So how do you go through that process? How do you convince yourself? Because I think that scares a lot of people from making that jump or doing something different.
Honestly, I feel like for me, there was never a point where I was like, okay, this is going to be a risk for me. I was committed. I was all in as soon as I made the decision that it's worth it now. So I left.
What are the things that you first talk to them about when they're a solopreneur, content creator, small business? Maybe it's different, maybe it's the same. When they're trying to figure out, okay, I want to succeed on social. I have access to all these different ideas, strategies, tools, technologies. Where do I start? It's overwhelming. It could be expensive. I don't know where to go. But I got to figure it out because, at this point, if we go back in time, COVID's happening, word of mouth isn't really killing it. So we got to figure out how to succeed online. So what's the first sort of conversation you would have with somebody when you engage with them? Maybe it's evolved since that first business. Maybe it's been the same.
I think it depends on the situation, but generally speaking, I like to dig deep, and I like to get to the bottom of who you are and really finding that out because I personally find once you have that clarity as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a content creator, whatever it is, once you have that clarity of yourself, you can succeed and you don't burn out on socials. You don't, or it doesn't even have to be socials, but in general, once you know who you are, you can you can represent yourself the right way. And that's really the only way to be authentic. And it's shocking to me, honestly, how many people don't know who they are.
It's very stressful to put yourself on display on social. When you first started putting yourself out there, I've watched some of your content. It's very good. Was there a little bit of imposter syndrome, or how did you navigate sort of like the stress of putting your whole life on display?
I really don't put everything on display. What I focus on is more being, let's say, the topic brand, as far as my expertise goes. And I
Explain
think
what that
there's a big difference between a personal brand that shows up as a person. So I do that a lot. For example, when I coach CEOs, digging deep into finding themselves and being authentic, but then having the bigger picture in mind. Where do I want to get with this? But there's a difference between being a personal brand or a topic brand.
How do you think through what parts of your life that you want to be quote unquote authentic about and that you want to talk about and that you want to bring up? What was the exercise that you went through? Like, did you, for somebody who's listening, for example, did you go through who the viewer is of your content? Is there certain buckets of content? What's like the sort of the formula that you've used for yourself that's been very successful?
So if you're looking at my channels, I love all the points that you're touching base on because if I reflect on my own social media presence, I have 5 active accounts that are 5 completely different accounts for that reason, because it is so confusing if I would try to have all these 5 different elements of myself into one channel. So just putting it into, a perspective of I have my marketing account, then I do have a travel account. I have a UGC account. So just really splitting it all into individual accounts. And that's where it's at because you want to serve that specific audience and you have that goal in mind. That's exactly what it is. If I look at my marketing account, I want to serve people. I want to answer their questions. And that has been my content strategy from day one, answering people's questions. And it's as simple as that. And it's the same if you are in fashion, if you're a beauty artist, if you are, whatever that may be, a travel blogger, answer people's questions.
What would be the strategy that you found that works best in terms of content that hits again and again and again and again, and including all the ideas we've discussed, including like, say you put your life into it, you're authentic, you're answering questions, check, you've done all that stuff. In terms of actual style of content, what other, just sort of like list out the other best practices for people that are just getting started, what type of content they should start to try and make?
I think various answers here. One is responsive content for sure. So responding, reacting to current topics, current questions that people have. But aside from that, I feel like when I started my Instagram journey or my social media journey outside of corporate, it was all about the how-tos. Now we transitioned into the how I. So really the how I do XYZ.
NetSuite is a success story partner. Now, what does the future hold for business? If you ask 9 experts, you're going to get 10 answers. Bull market, bear market, rates will rise, rates will fall. Honestly, I just wish somebody would invent a crystal ball. But until then, over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one fluid, dynamic platform. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. And when you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. If I had needed this product, this is what I would use. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. And speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning. The guide is free. That's netsuite.com/Scott Clary. Indeed is a success story partner. Now, say you just realized your business needed to hire someone fast. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscription, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility. Just go to Indeed.com/Clary right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Clary. Terms and conditions apply. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. How do you leverage AI and not basically remove the humanity from your content? Like what's the amount of AI you should include, or where should you embed it in your content or your social strategy?
I include AI for research, idea finding, optimizing, helping me with things. I would never copy and paste anything and post it. Never. I still very much audio record my captions and my comments, hence the typos and misspelled words, and well, not misspelled, but just different words in there sometimes that I didn't say, but it picked it up. But I think that just really gets across the humanization of it, just audio, text, audio, voice record your captions. That makes a big difference. It's just as fast, but you can still brainstorm with, whatever AI tool you're using. Brainstorm, use it. Other than that, automating whatever you can. I'm a big fan of that. Absolutely. Should you automate everything? Absolutely not.
Are there any other that you've used successfully, strategies with AI in your content that have worked very well outside of just brainstorming and research? Has there been anything else? I mean, like if we go through like the list of AI tools, there's like, there's 11 Labs that does the voice stuff. There's, I guess Canva can do graphics. ChatGPT does graphics too. Opus does video clipping. These are kind of all like nice little fun tools, but they're never good enough to post, by the way. You can't just post that stuff. You still have to like apply a human touch. But is there anything else that you found that helps you?
Absolutely. Yes, yes. One of my favorites and absolutely underrated and overlooked is Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat.
Okay, explain. I've never used them as an AI tool before.
Okay, yes, because everybody thinks, oh, wait, is that the PDF thing where you can open the PDF or write a PDF? Exactly. Yes, that one. But that also has AI assistant embedded in it nowadays. And I use it for example, coaching calls, Zoom calls. You can have the transcripts just analyzed, use AI assistant for, let's say I have a coaching call. There's a bunch of questions asked and we elaborated on that, that I like to answer questions with my content. So having AI assistant take the transcript and giving me the questions that we asked and answered throughout that coaching call. There you go. This is my content idea.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know it. So explain so Adobe has AI tools. What else do they do? So explain how this works. So when you record a call, because this is great for content. And by the way, I love taking your live calls and turning it into content. I think that's actually very smart. So you record a call, and then what else happens after that?
Then you have the transcript of your call. You can link
does Adobe
Teams
sit
or
on
Zoom.
like a Zoom?
Correct.
Is that how
Correct.
it works? Okay.
So you have it integrated or linked. You have the transcript of your call, and then you plug that into AI Assistant and say, hey, here's my transcript of my call. Can you bullet point the questions that were asked or the answers that I've given and turn this into social media content ideas?
Walk me through when you go into a content creator's sort of little world and you're trying to help them optimize everything and figure out how to operate and keep in mind, like, legal, finance, sales, marketing, HR, onboarding, like payroll, like if they have a small team, it's a lot. And you can honestly sometimes get too much tech and too many tools that it actually screws up your process because you have so much that you're trying to keep track of. For that early stage creator, walk me through sort of setting up their business operations, what they should pay attention to?
Acrobat. That's your answer.
Explain to me how a small SMB content creator, solopreneur, how should they think about using, again, you mentioned Adobe. What should they outsource to AI? What should they not? When should a lawyer get involved? When should they not? What should they use Adobe for? What does it do differently than, say, for example, writing a contract in ChatGPT? Like, walk me through a solopreneur setting themselves up legally so that they basically don't get screwed and they get a good deal and they make sure to check all the boxes and check all the contract contingencies and all the different things that they should pay attention to. How should they do that? What do you do for yourself and also for different creators?
I mean, no AI tool will ever be an attorney. So you can create as much as you want to, but you will have to double check with an attorney if you want to be legally safe. Honestly, as a content creator, working with brands, creating content for them, I have not done that. Haven't had to do it other than, when it comes to my business structure or anything like that, when it comes to sending out contracts to my clients, yes, I have those legally checked. But when it comes to content creation, working with brands, I have not. I have my rates set. I have a contract. Usually they sent me a contract. And then I use AI to understand the contract because, again, I'm not an attorney. And sometimes that legal language can be interesting to understand.
It's not, yeah, it's very interesting to understand. So was there so now when you leverage AI, was there ever a point where it pointed out something that you wouldn't have caught? Was there a particular contract? Like, just walk us through a story of how you've used it.
Not necessarily anything that I wouldn't have caught. I think it's more for me, I like to utilize it as simplifying to understand the contract in terms of, okay, when are my deliverables due? What is the net pay for this? Is this really interesting for me? Am I going to sign this or not? Really looking at those are always my biggest ones because time is usually never on my side. So I have to figure out when to deliver. And yeah, revisions are also a big one. They like to hide in there.
What would be some of the bigger mistakes that solopreneurs and content creators make when negotiating deals that maybe AI could help them and Adobe could help them catch?
Truly not understanding their deliverables and understanding the contract, especially when it comes to revisions. I feel like that is a reoccurring situation where a brand clearly has it laid out in the contract that, they can ask for 2-3 revisions. And then the content creator gets caught up into, oh my gosh, this is not a 2-hour work. This is like, I have to re-record this again and I have to do this again. So really getting caught up in that and thinking, I'm getting $1,000 for an hour of work. No, that's not how it works.
So we spoke about content. We spoke about how to be authentic with your audience. We spoke about even some of like the tools, when to use AI, when not to use AI. What would be some other major lessons that you've learned over even building out your own company for somebody that is a full-time creator? Things that went well, things that didn't go well, things that, you want to teach somebody who's just starting on the same journey, maybe you 5 years ago.
Be mindful of the time and energy that you have, because you can absolutely invest your time into the wrong things, and just get stuck in it. So yeah, really thinking of the time that you have available. Where are you going to invest your time? Because time is your most valuable asset.
Time is always your most valuable asset. Amen. How do you figure out what those most important things are that you have to work on? Like, do you have a way to delegate, to figure out what only you can spend your time on versus when you should give it to your team?
I think it's a combination of things you are maybe really good at, and things you enjoy doing. And I think that's a missed one oftentimes, where you get caught up into things that you have to do. Yes, we all have to do things that we might not enjoy doing, and we still have to do it. But I much rather outsource those than the ones that I love, enjoy doing, because that just keeps up the whole motivation of working in this business and, keeping you happy and not burned out, because no matter how many hours you work in a day, you can work 60 hours a week, not burn out, or 100 hours a week, not burn out, if you love what you're doing.
What was the point where you knew that this was what you were meant to do? Like that you were sort of living in your calling? I don't know how else to describe it. Like, how do you recommend somebody sort of seek that out when they figure out their North Star, they figure out their Ikigai, the Venn diagram of who they are, or what they're good at, what the market needs, what they can monetize. I think that's what it is. I can't remember exactly, but there's a couple different frameworks for this. How did you figure out, because that's a lesson for somebody who's sort of lost on their journey, what you should spend your time and energy and life on?
Just seeing what I enjoy doing and reflecting on that. I'm big on reflecting. I just love that. And I think everybody should practice that. Not enough people practice that. Really reflecting on what you're good at and being okay with the things you're not good at. It's fine to not be good at everything. We can't be good at everything. And then finding a way to outsource that and simplify my life. And my content creation or my processes or whatever that may be. But looking at it that way, that you put your time and energy into the things you love doing, then it's automatically becoming good.
I just want to take a second and thank Cornbread Hemp for supporting today's episode. Now, Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies have been this really nice addition to my wellness toolkit. I don't use them every day, just when I want to unwind after those extra busy weeks, but they're perfect for those moments when you want to take the edge off and just find your balance, really just shut off from work. And what makes them special is how Cornbread Hemp crafts them. They only use the flower of USDA organic hemp plants. That's the best part. For the purest, most potent experience, no fillers, no artificial fluff, just clean, full spectrum goodness in delicious watermelon, berry, and peach flavor. I keep them in my nightstand for those moments when I just need a little extra help relaxing, and I love how transparent they are too. Every batch is third-party lab tested, so you know exactly what you're getting, and they put together a special offer for all Success Story podcast listeners. All listeners can save 30% off their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/success and use code success at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/success, code success for 30% off your first order of these amazing gummies. The HubSpot Podcast Network is a Success Story partner. Now, if you like Success Story, you're going to love other podcasts in the HubSpot Podcast Network. One of my personal favorites is I Digress, hosted by my boy Troy Sandage. Each show is under 30 minutes. I Digress helps eliminate complexity, complications, and confusion in your business with frameworks and strategies to achieve true, scalable, and sustainable success. If you're an entrepreneur building anything, you need to listen to I Digress. This is one of the most useful business podcasts. Trust me, go do yourself a favor and listen to I Digress wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to me about monetization. Somebody's a creator. They're building out their business. They understand how to be authentic with their audience. They understand the different tools they should and shouldn't use. I want to make money. What type of content should you be creating to grow an audience versus how to make money? Is there a difference? Are they the same? Like when somebody's like, I want to be a creator, where do I start? I want to make money off my content. What's the advice that you give me?
Don't focus on making money. Focus on a true value piece. Focus on answering questions, on helping people in what way ever that may be. As a fashion influencer, could be on how to put together outfits. But focus on that over focusing on, I want to make X amount of money, or I want to grow 10,000 followers in the next 30 days, because you will not get there.
What's the biggest misconception about social media in terms of how it makes you money? Like, set expectations for people, set expectations for the content creator, set expectations for the small business owner, the solopreneur, in terms of what social will do for you and not.
You do not need a big following to start making money. Definitely not. There are a ton of UGC creators out there that have less than 1,000 followers and make a ton of money because they are UGC creators. So the content doesn't live on their page, it lives on the brand's page. And then the best way to utilize that is use your own page as a portfolio. Doesn't necessarily give you a whole bunch of followers, but that's absolutely fine. You utilize social media with a different purpose in mind. I think that's really the biggest misconception, that you need X amount of followers. And growing X amount of followers is actually not hard. If that's your goal, sure. I have that all the time. I feel like where somebody comes, signs up for a consulting call and says, well, I want to grow 100,000 followers. And then my question is why? And they don't have an answer for that.
What should they focus on instead then?
Their true why. What do they actually want? Or why do they need 1,000 followers, 100,000 followers? For what?
Yeah.
And if their answer is because I want to make money off of this, well, then you don't need 100,000 followers.
If you think about all the ways, because being a creator is being an entrepreneur and you are building a business, think about all the different ways that content creators should, because if you have a business, you have a product. Okay. We'll shelve that for a second because that's sort of more obvious. But I think creators, they kind of get lost in how should I build up my little personal business empire, right? Should I do sponsored deals? Should I do brand partnerships? Should I do affiliate? Should I have a course? Should I, whatever. What should people start with? Where should they start? Because I am a firm believer, if you try and do everything, you do nothing, successfully at least. So where should they start?
I would say start with having a focus in mind and finding yourself, finding your own voice on social media if you want to utilize social media as that. Experiment with that. Experimentation never stops. Don't be afraid to experiment and just get out there and find your voice. Find what's unique and what sticks. Because again, going back to trying to do what everyone else is doing isn't going to set you apart.
And is there, do you have advice for people who are trying to figure out, should they show up on every single platform or should they pick one? Or because there's also so many platforms now that it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely do not try to be on every platform. Pick one, maybe two or three. It depends if they have cross-posting options or not. Might as well cross-post. But even if you say, okay, I'm going to pick various amounts of platforms, be mindful that every platform is different and you cannot just utilize the exact same content on every platform.
It does not work well when you do that.
It does not work well at all.
So when do you sort of start to expand, or do you ever? I guess it comes back to, what are your goals? That is truly the answer.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So definitely utilize your content if you are already creating content. And then it depends on what kind of content are you creating. If you're creating long form, absolutely best way to chop that down and, use it for other platforms. But so many people are afraid of creating long form. So they start with, short form content or graphics because they don't even want to show up on camera, where this is a whole different situation.
What would be your advice? I have my views, but you work with way more creators than I do. So what would be your advice? What is the advice that actually works, not just Scott's opinion? Should you figure out how to get over your fear and do you have a strategy for that? Or should you just triple down on what you're actually comfortable doing?
Yeah, so I think content creators and small business owners, I see that even more with small business owners. They don't know how to show up on camera because they like to show their products or whatnot, and not themselves. Content creators, I feel like the majority of them is aware that, okay, I do have to show up on camera, But you can absolutely make tweaks to that. Some feel very comfortable, and I think it's a way to ease into that. Feel comfortable of recreating a trend. That's an easy way to ease into showing up on camera because you're just recreating something instead of jumping on camera and talking on camera, because that is a whole different ballgame, I feel like, where people are like, oh my gosh, now I don't know what to say, or I don't know how I look, or, they're overthinking it in all kinds of ways.
Is there a hack to becoming better on social, or is it just putting in the reps? And then the follow-up is, if you're trying to make money off social, what's the percentage of promoting versus value that you see really, really works well?
First, question about showing up. So I definitely think there are variations, as I said. You don't need to show up on camera and start talking to the camera and be all vulnerable. You can baby steps. Baby steps will get you there. And my first pieces of content look terrible. I think every creator feels that way. It's so cringe to look back at your old content and it was just not good. But this is how everybody feels. If you would be perfect already at it, what's the point? That's boring. Like, where are you going to go? How are you going to evolve? So being okay with that and just, say, okay, well, this is what it is. I think another big one that we haven't touched on is just separating the outside world of friends and family from your account and from that pressure, especially when it comes to showing up on camera. I feel like that's a big topic for a lot of people where it's like, well, but what are my friends and family are going to think? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The people who want to support you, and that is something that I've really learned on social media, being active on social media, is the people you don't know are the most supportive people sometimes, especially on social media, the like-minded people that you meet there. It's wild. And then you have your own family, making you feel cringe every time.
It's tough. It's very tough. But I think that once you do it more and more, you start to realize that nobody really cares that much. That's a main takeaway. When somebody is, and just the second part of that, when somebody is trying to make money on social or sell a product, what is your best ratio for salesy versus value?
I mean, it's kind of bold to say don't sell.
No,
Because
it's
you
not
are
bold.
selling by showing up.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't really think that we need to actively sell. I think taking a step back and passively selling is the way better approach, by showing the value. Let's say you have a product, by showing the benefits of the product or how you use the product, is indirect selling, and that works a lot better.
If you look at sort of 2025 and beyond, what are some things that you're excited about with the creator economy and social media in general? Like, what are the things that you're seeing that people aren't even aware of yet?
Great question. I think even tapping even more into the humanization of how I do things. I touched base on that a little bit, away from the how-tos, more to the how-I, and just adding that piece of personalization and humanization into content. And I think trends will always exist, but they will evolve. And I think as we all get more comfortable in front of camera, because, looking 4 or 5 years back, except YouTube, but, when it comes to short form video content creation, now we're all used to it. We're all used to creating. So just seeing the different creators evolve and going into different directions instead of following trends, I think that'll be interesting.
If somebody is sort of wrestling with the idea of, should I do it? Should I not? What's the words of wisdom to that person? What is the thing that you want them to ask themselves that will sort of point them in one direction or another?
Why do you want to do it? A lot of people don't have the answer for that. Why do you want to do that? I feel like it is there's, again, so much noise on, it's so easy, but But it's not. It's not that easy. And I feel like barely anyone talks about how hard it actually is, how consistent you actually have to be, and how determined you have to be to get there. Because how many times have you tried something that didn't work out?
If people want to, connect with you, if people want to sort of reach out to you and sort of learn more about how you can help them with social, with content, with their business, where do you want to send people?
You can find me on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn. Reach out. I am the one answering my DMs. No AI tool is doing that, or none of my team members. Yeah, I love connecting on socials. Yeah.
What's the main handle? I think on Instagram.
Main handle is ELAS Marketing Services, ELAS Marketing Services, and same on most other platforms. But when it comes to LinkedIn, YouTube, then it's first and last name, Daniela Schrittenlocher.
Perfect. Yes, I'm not even going to try it. Schrittenlocher. I got it. Daniela Schrittenlocher.
You did.
But we'll link everything in the show notes. The last question I like to ask, obviously you've had a great career, multiple seasons to your career as well. When you look back, and sort of, and the way that I like to ask this question is, say you could just pass on sort of one lesson. Could be about business, could be about brand building, could be about life. I don't care. You take it as you want. But you could pass on just one lesson to your kids after all the different things that you've built and different successes that you've had. What would that lesson be and why?
Believe in yourself and don't give up. Time is your most valuable asset, and use it wisely.